Book of Mark, chapter 9. And he said to them, Truly, I say to you that there are some standing here who will not taste death till they see the kingdom of Allah him having come with power. Now after 6 days YAHUAH took Peter, James and John, and led them up on a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. His clothes became shining exceedingly white like snow, so much that the sons of men are not able to make this white. And Elijah appeared to them with Moses, and they were talking with YAHUAH. Then Peter answered, and said to YAHUAH, Teacher, it is good for us to be here. And let us make 3 tabernacles. One for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. Because he did not know what to say, for they were greatly afraid. And a cloud came and overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, This is my beloved Son. Hear him. Suddenly when they had looked around, they saw no one any more, but only YAHUAH with themselves. Now as they came down from the mountain, he commanded them that they should tell no one the things they had seen, till the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept this word to themselves, questioning what the rising from the dead meant. And they asked him, saying, Why do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Then he answered and told them, Indeed, Elijah is coming first and restores all things. And how is it written concerning the Son of Man that he must suffer many things and be treated with contempt? But I say to you that Elijah has also come, and they did to him whatever they wished, as it is written of him. And when he came to the disciples, he saw a great multitude around them, and the scribes disputing with them. Immediately when they saw him, all the people were greatly amazed, and running to him, greeted him. And he asked the scribes, What are you discussing with them? Then one of the crowd answered and said, Teacher, I brought you my son, who has a mute spirit. And wherever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes paralyzed. So I spoke to your disciples, that they should cast it out, but they could not. He answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me. Then they brought him to him. And when he saw him, immediately the spirit tore him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed, foaming at the mouth. So he asked his father, How long has this been happening to him? And he said, From childhood. And often he has thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. YAHUAH said to him, If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, Master, I believe. Help my unbelief. When YAHUAH saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, Deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and enter him no more. Then the spirit cried out, and rent him sore, and came out of him. And he became as one dead, so that many said, He is dead. But YAHUAH took him by the hand, and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, Why could we not cast it out? So he said to them, This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting. Then they departed from there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know it. For he taught his disciples and said to them, The Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And after he is killed, he will rise the 3rd day. But they did not understand this saying, and were afraid to ask him. Then he came to Capernaum. And when he was in the house, he asked them, What was it you disputed among yourselves on the road? But they kept silent, for on the road they had disputed among themselves who would be the greatest. And he sat down, and called the 12, and said to them, If anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all. Then he took a little child, and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said to them, Whoever receives one of these little children in my name receives me. And whoever receives me, receives not me, but him who sent me. Now John answered him, saying, Teacher, we saw someone who does not follow us casting out demons in your name, and we forbade him because he does not follow us. But YAHUAH said, Do not forbid him, for no one who works a miracle in my name can soon afterward speak evil of me. For he who is not against us is on our side. For whoever gives you a cup of water to drink in my name, because you belong to Messiah, truly, I say to you, he will by no means lose his reward. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck, and he were thrown into the sea. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life crippled, rather than having two hands to go to hell into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame, rather than having 2 feet to be cast into hell into the fire that shall never be quenched, where their worm does not die, and the fire is not quenched. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of Elohim with 1 eye, rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. For everyone will be salted with fire, and every sacrifice will be salted with salt. Salt is good, but if the salt loses its flavor, how will you season it? Have salt in yourselves, and have peace with one another. Chapter 10. Then he arose from there and came to the region of Judea by the other side of the Jordan. And multitudes gathered to him again, and as he was accustomed, he taught them again. And the Pharisees came and asked him, Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife? Tempting him. And he answered and said to them, What did Moses command you? And they said, Moses permitted a man to write a certificate of divorce and to dismiss her. And YAHUAH answered and said to them, Because of the hardness of your heart, he wrote you this precept. But from the beginning of the creation Elohim made them male and female. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So then they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what Elohim has joined together, let not man separate. In the house his disciples also asked him again about the same matter. So he said to them, Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery. Then they brought little children to him that he might touch them. But the disciples rebuked those who brought them. But when YAHUAH saw it, he was greatly displeased and said to them, Let the little children come to me, and do not forbid them. For of such is the kingdom of Elohim. Truly, I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of Elohim as a little child will by no means enter it. And he took them up in his arms, laid his hands on them, and blessed them. Now as he was going out on the road, one came running, and knelt before him and asked him, Good teacher, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life? So YAHUAH said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good, but one, that is Elohim. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not defraud. Honor your father and your mother. And he answered and said to him, Teacher, all these things I have kept from my youth. Then YAHUAH, looking at him, loved him and said to him, One thing you lack. Go your way, sell whatever you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. But he was sad at this word, and went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then YAHUAH looked around and said to his disciples, How hard it is for those who have riches to enter the kingdom of Elohim. And the disciples were astonished at his words. But YAHUAH answered again and said to them, Children, how hard it is for those who trust in riches to enter the kingdom of Elohim. It is easier for a rope to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of Elohim. And they were greatly astonished, saying among themselves, Who then can be saved? But YAHUAH looked at them and said, With men it is impossible, but not with Elohim. For with Elohim all things are possible. Then Peter began to say to him, See, we have left all and followed you. So YAHUAH answered and said, Truly I say to you, there is no one who has left house or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my sake and the good news, who shall not receive 100-fold now in this time, houses and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and lands with persecutions, and in the age to come eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. Now they were on the road, going up to Jerusalem, and Yahushua was going before them, and they were amazed. And as they followed they were afraid. Then he took the 12 aside again, and began to tell them the things that would happen to him. Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be betrayed to the chief priests and to the scribes. And they will condemn him to death and deliver him to the Gentiles. And they will mock him and scourge him and spit on him and kill him. And the third day he will rise again. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him, saying, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he said to them, What do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Grant us that we may sit, one on your right hand and the other on your left in your splendor. But Yahushua said to them, You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, and be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with? They said to him, We are able. So Yahushua said to them, You will indeed drink the cup that I drink, and with the immersion I am immersed with you will be immersed. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be greatly displeased with James and John. But Yahushua called them to himself and said to them, You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles exercise authority over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant. And whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. Now they came to Jericho. As he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. And when he heard that it was Yahushua of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Yahushua, son of David, have mercy on me. Then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Yahushua stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, Be of good cheer. Rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Yahushua. So Yahushua answered and said to him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Master, that I may receive my sight. Then Yahushua said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight, and followed Yahushua on the road. Chapter 11. Now when they drew near Jerusalem to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples. And he said to them, Go into the village opposite you, and as soon as you have entered it you will find a colt tied on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, Why are you doing this? Say, The master has need of it, and immediately he will send it here. So they went their way, and found the colt tied by the door outside on the street, and they loosed it. But some of those who stood there said to them, What are you doing loosing the colt? And they spoke to them just as Yahushua had commanded. So they let them go. Then they brought the colt to Yahushua and threw their clothes on it, and he sat on it. And many spread their clothes on the road, and others cut down leafy branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then those who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahuwah. Blessed is the kingdom of our father David that comes in the name of Yahuwah. Hosanna in the highest. And Yahushua went into Jerusalem and into the temple. So when he had looked around at all things as the hour was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Now the next day when they had come out from Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. In response Yahushua said to it, Let no one eat fruit from you ever again. And his disciples heard it. So they came to Jerusalem. Then Yahushua went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers, and the seats of those who sold doves. and he would not permit that anyone should carry a vessel through the temple. Then he taught, saying to them, Is it not written, My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations? But you have made it a den of thieves. And the scribes and chief priests heard it, and sought how they might destroy him. For they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his teaching. And when evening had come, he went out of the city. Now in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, Teacher, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away. So YAHUAH answered and said to them, Have faith in Elohim. For truly, I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, Be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your transgressions. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father in heaven forgive your transgressions. Then they came again to Jerusalem. And as he was walking in the temple, the chief priests, the scribes, and the elders came to him. And they said to him, By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority to do these things? But YAHUAH answered and said to them, I also will ask you one question, and answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. The immersion of John, was it from heaven or from men? Answer me. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, If we say from heaven, he will say, Why then did you not believe him? But if we say from men, they feared the people, for all counted John to have been a prophet indeed. So they answered and said to YAHUAH, We do not know. And YAHUAH answered and said to them, Neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. Chapter 12. Then he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard, and set a hedge around it, dug a place for the wine vat, and built a tower. And he leased it to vinedressers, and went into a far country. When the season came, he sent a servant to the vinedressers, that he might receive some of the fruit of the vineyard from the vinedressers. And they took him, and beat him, and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent them another servant, and at him they threw stones, wounded him in the head, and sent him away shamefully treated. And again he sent another, and him they killed. And many others, beating some and killing some. Therefore, still having one son, his beloved, he also sent him to them last, saying, They will respect my son. But those vinedressers said among themselves, This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. So they took him, and killed him, and cast him out of the vineyard. Therefore what will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the vinedressers, and give the vineyard to others. Have you not even read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was YAHUAH's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they sought to lay hands on him, but feared the multitude, for they knew he had spoken the parable against them. So they left him, and went away. Then they sent to him some of the Pharisees, and the Herodians, to catch him in his words. When they had come, they said to him, Teacher, we know that you are true, and care about no one. For you do not regard the person of men, but teach the way of Elohim in truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar, or not? Shall we pay, or shall we not pay? But he, knowing their hypocrisy, said to them, Why do you tempt me? Bring me a denarius, that I may see it. So they brought it. And he said to them, Whose image and inscription is this? They said to him, Caesar's. And YAHUAH answered and said to them, Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to Elohim the things that are Elohim's. And they marveled at him. Then some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him, and they asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote to us that if a man's brother dies, and leaves his wife behind, and leaves no children, his brother should take his wife, and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first took a wife, and dying, he left no offspring. And the second took her, and he died, nor did he leave any offspring. And the third likewise. So the 7 had her and left no offspring. Last of all the woman died also. Therefore in the resurrection when they rise, whose wife will she be? For all 7 had her as wife. Yahushua answered and said to them, Are you not therefore deceived, because you do not know the scriptures nor the power of Elohim? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like Malachim in heaven. But concerning the dead that they rise, have you not read in the book of Moses in the burning bush passage, how Elohim spoke to him, saying, I am the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. He is not the Elohim of the dead, but the Elohim of the living. You are therefore greatly deceived. Then one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, Which is the first commandment of all? Yahushua answered him, The first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Yashar'al, Yahuwah or Elohim, Yahuwah is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second like it, is this, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So the scribe said to him, Well said, teacher. You have spoken the truth, for there is one Elohim, and there is no other but He. And to love Him with all the heart, with all the understanding, with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself, is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. Now when Yahushua saw that he answered discreetly, he said to him, You are not far from the kingdom of Elohim. But after that no one dared question him. Then Yahushua answered and said, while he taught in the temple, How is it that the scribes say that the Messiah is the son of David? For David himself said by the set-apart Spirit, Yahuwah said to my master, Sit at my right hand, till I make your enemies your footstool. Therefore David himself calls him master. How is he then his son? And the common people heard him gladly. Then he said to them in his teaching, Beware of the scribes, who desire to go around in long robes, and love greetings in the marketplaces, and the best seats in the synagogues, and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. These will receive greater judgment. Now Yahushua sat opposite the treasury, and saw how the people put money into the treasury. And many who were rich put in much. Then one poor widow came and threw in 2 mites, which make a quadrans. So he called his disciples to himself, and said to them, Truly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all those who have given to the treasury. For they all put in out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all that she had, her whole livelihood. For they all put in out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all that she had, her whole livelihood.